change. The seed of every epic, the heart of every lore. Legends are not just tales, they're experiences lived and shared. Every voice adds to the legend, every moment becomes a memory. Folk and Myth.
Let us begin by talking a little bit about the world. History and magic intertwine in the world of Ysterra. It is a land shaped by the breath of a dying deity and illuminated by twin suns in the skies above. Here, the long seasons, the currents of the ley lines, and the phases of Ysterra's three moons have nurtured an ever-evolving array of civilizations, each under the watchful gaze of the Ascendant, guardians of the elemental and divine forces that bind this world. From the bustling city of Escos to the mystic Aurorus mountains, the people of Ysterra have thrived, their lives a reflection of the land's diversity and its powerful nature. Yet, her many cultures have shaped a world where magic permeates the very air and where the celestial bodies are not just lights in the sky, but symbols of deeper cosmic truths. Amidst this setting of wonder and tradition, a new chapter is about to be written. The tale of the Aurorus explorer. Born from the union of government ambition and private ingenuity across Greater Andrescal, the Aurorus is more than an airship. She is a vision of progress intended to define the coming age. Part of a flotilla of 5 ships tasked to traverse the skies, the Aurorus symbolizes a turning point in Ysterra's history. With seas too treacherous to navigate, the skies offer a new path, a realm untamed and unexplored. The invention of the Aurorus and her sister ships marks the dawn of an era where the unreachable becomes reachable, where the isolated corners of the world can be connected in ways once thought impossible. The voyage of the Aurorus, setting out from the technologically advanced lands of Sotruk, carries the hopes and dreams of many. It's a journey that promises to bridge distant lands, to share knowledge and culture, and to unveil the mysteries that have long been hidden beyond the horizon. As the Aurorus prepares to embark on this grand journey, the eyes of all are upon her. As the suns alight the mid-morning skies, blue streaked with orange, a few wisps of clouds here and there, the capital city of Avestris in Sotruk bursts with a symphony of celebration. The streets are alive with tens of thousands of people, their faces alight from the kaleidoscopic array of magically enhanced and brilliantly colored fireworks that paint the morning sky above them. Music and laughter fill the air, mingling with the scent of festive food carts. Every corner of the city, from the humblest alley to the grandest plaza, is filled with excitement, celebrating the inaugural flight of the Aurorus explorer. Perched atop a towering structure, the airship, colloquially called Aurorus, floats majestically next to a massive platform of gathered dignitaries, inventors, mages, and other notable citizens. The platform connects to a towering marvel in engineering and architecture, standing as a kind of sentinel, in a way, over the city, crowned with the vessel poised for her historic journey. The Aurorus explorer herself is a wondrous sight to behold. 80 feet from stem to stern, her hull gleams with perfectly polished Ospelin oak. Atop her deck, a large guiding sail billows gently above the helm, its rigging just waiting to pull the sail taut and catch the wind's favor. The ship's sides and fore are adorned with immense viewing windows, panels of blue stained glass imported from the far deserts of Aubrath. At the rear, 6 metallic wings, elegant yet sturdy, stand ready to channel the power of the arcanic engine. This brilliant feat of artifice pulses with a gentle glow, its energy humming in anticipation of the pending voyage. As the crew bustles about, making final preparations, the crowd's excitement crescendos. The moment they've all been waiting for is at hand. The assembled onlookers of the platform complete the ceremonial well wishes of a safe voyage, and with all of the purpose and circumstance, the captain gives the signal, and the helmsman initiates the Aurorus explorer's ascent. Cheers erupt from below, tide completely crescendoing the well wishes from above, awe in sweeping through the city as the Aurorus and her crew embark on their maiden voyage, setting sail on a mission that promises to reshape our understanding of the world. Above this jubilant city, these joyous people, the Aurorus sails into the bright morning sky, her journey into beyond. Her journey towards the horizon, now underway. And as the Aurorus leaves the sight of the onlookers from the city, as it turns into just a speck upon this horizon, our crew is gathered going about their purposed tasks, setting about to the various things that are necessary for the Aurorus to be underway. Let us meet our crew this day. We will start with you, Deb. What is it, or tell us a little bit, please, about Kaylee and what it is that she is doing as this ceremony of days has begun.
Kaylee is sort of, as the ship was getting ready to take flight, she was rushing around, making sure that everything on the deck was stowed, making sure that the other crew members were doing their duties. You see a human woman. She's got dark curly hair. She's got a bunch of like dirt smudged on her face because she works in the engine room a little bit. She's one of the engineers. And so she's always tinkering with things, making sure that things are ready to go. And she has tucked a letter into her back pocket because she is from Escos and she just got final news from home before setting sail.
Nice. And so as the engine room bustles with the activity of you and the chief engineer, Yardi, the two of you almost, well, in well sync, that is, being practiced now for several months of training at this point. You hear a comment from him kind of under his breath, not something that he's necessarily directing at you. It's kind of, he just sort of does this where he just talks openly. Most of the time he's in the engine room alone, and it's only on rare instances that you're both actually working it together. You hear him just mutter to himself, "She could fly herself, really. I don't know what I'm even doing here." He just kind of chuckles to himself as he checks some of the settings and locks down a small a bolt that had been perhaps not really coming loose, but kind of giving himself something to do in a way. The gentle hum of the engine just fills the rest of the silence after he mutters this. You almost feel the hair on Kaylee's neck standing up a little bit now that the engine is in full force.
She could fly herself, but then what would we have to do? We'd be on the ground.
He just kind of startles and looks up at you and has a broad smile on his face. Right. Sorry, I forgot you were here for a moment. I get lost in the hum. Do you ever find that?
Yes. It's odd. I've never experienced anything like it. There's almost a musical quality to it.
Really? Huh. I hadn't considered that. I'll try to listen to that. And he just kind of has this wonder about him almost. He already very frequently finds himself just getting lost in the notion of what's happening around him, and the experience is almost cathartic in one way, joyous in another, and unique. And he just feels himself getting lost in it. Something that the two of you perhaps have developed in common. And so as we move out of the engine room and come forward, perhaps into the main deck, the crew deck, as it were, the quarters of the ship, Andrew, can you please tell us a little bit about, was it Philben, I think was his name, yes?
Yes, Philben Mosby.
As Philben is sitting in the quarterdeck here, smelling a few things from your cook, what is he going about doing?
He's going to find a nice table to sit at, uncork a bottle of wine for this maiden voyage, and pour himself a glass. He is this 300-year-old silver-haired elf enjoying his time on this beautiful ship.
As he is sitting there, you hear the familiar yet brusque voice of your dwarven cook, Branvan, sitting, yelling out from his station with his cook's oven and all kinds of foods and spices kind of gathered around him at the various cabinets. And there's not a lot of room for, a real, it's not what you would call a chef's kitchen. It's more of a perfectly tailored space to this elder dwarven man. I guess midlife dwarven man, really, because he's in his perhaps 90s or so. Bald, thick beard. Bronvin looks over at you and says, "Oi, what are you doing? Shouldn't you be up top actually doing some work?"
I'm working. I'm tasting this wine and making sure that it's okay for the captain. He sent me down here to get a bottle of wine for the maiden voyage to share amongst the crew. And I'm just making sure that it tastes good, it pairs well with dinner, and as well to make sure it's not poisoned.
Right. Uh-huh. Why don't you give me, well, actually, here's a question. Are you attempting to actually bluff your way out of this? Or are you just kind of half-assing it like, everybody expects you to be?
Probably half-assing it. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So as Bronvin stares at you, he just gets this kind of wry half smile on his face. And he says, Captain Harrow is not going to put up with your shite much longer, man. You might want to consider actually doing a little bit of fucking work and not leaving it to the halfling.
She is my protege.
Oh, really?
Yes. Well,
that's what you're thinking.
I've been alive for over 300 years. I can't take all of the lived experience. I have to leave some for the rest of the people. And, hard work really builds character, and I've done a lot. I've been around for centuries. And then, in those 300 years, I've never broken a nail, and I don't intend to start.
Then why'd you sign up to be a ship's mate?
It was the only spot available. They weren't taking passengers, unfortunately, but...
well, no, because we're on a mission. This is an actual voyage with purpose.
Yeah, of course. I'm with you guys 100%.
Well, just so you know, that wee lass of a halfling, Sylvie, she's done way more than you have on board this ship. And as of this morning, with us setting sail, your 300 years before don't mean nothing. We're equals. And fair to say, she's your superior in this particular instance.
I'm not sure if she knows that, though.
I don't care if she knows that. You need to know that. All right? And he's just sitting there like with a cleaver in one hand, kind of slicing through some vegetables for the meal that he has prepared for, or is getting ready to prepare for tonight.
Philbin gives a half-hearted salute, goes, aye, and then we'll just leave.
As Philbin makes his way up to the upper decks, we will find the aforementioned Sylvie bustling about doing the actual jobs of a shipmate, I assume. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Sylvie, Beth?
Yeah, so Sylvie is a delightful little halfling. She appears to be a young woman, adorned in very like flowy, adventuring clothing, practical boots with a little bit of flair, and she is currently finishing up some of the work up top here. All with a big smile on her face, getting ready for this adventure that they're setting sail on. And as she finishes, one task and starts another, she wonders aloud, "Where is Philbin? He's missing the best part."
As you say that, there is a chuckle from nearby. You glance over and see the first mate, Demeter, standing just off to the side. He's been kind of just keeping an eye, more or less. He has a tendency. He's a human or a half elven man, fairly tall, like 6'1", 6'2", dark skin, hair kind of just almost, it's tied, but it still feels loose. It flows in the breeze. He doesn't restrain it in any way, and he has a sense of things more than anything else. He very frequently, he always listens and barks out the commands of the captain, of course, but he also has a tendency to just kind of listen to the wind and feel the ship more than anything else. He's had many decades of experience on the Sea of Entreskill, the one sea in all of the world that is capable of supporting regular sailing ships. As many of the crew here hail from that kind of experience, he kind of glances over at you and kind of chuckles to himself, and he says, "Well, unfortunately, we're kind of stuck with him. So if he doesn't want to participate today, I don't think we're going to get much luck otherwise. I'm glad you're here, though, little one."
Thank you. Yes, and I'm, just getting things ready here. But he really should be here for this. This is it, right? This is the adventure. We're doing it. And I think if he could be up here and feel this like vibration and the excitement and all of that, I think that would really make something click for him. And maybe then he would, help at all.
Well, it is only day one. So we've got many, many, many more days ahead of us to hopefully get something to click between those pointy ears of his.
I think we should all give him just a bit more credit. I think he's probably very capable under all of that.
Well, he's going to have to be soon, because I don't imagine that we're going to have as clear skies as this the entirety of our voyage.
Probably not, but that's exciting too.
I hope so. Speaking of clear skies, Ian, where do we find Taven? Where do we find Taven in this few hours past the launch of the ship?
Taven would be on the upper deck, like by where the helm is, just kind of standing there, kind of looking out into the sky, like taking in a moment, like if he had like a cup of something and he's kind of sitting there cross-armed and just breathing almost incessantly. He's just like, and it's kind of just doing that like every so often. He's a full orc. His skin is definitely like been kissed by like seawater. He's got the background of like of the sailor in the seas of Intressible, and just like most of the crew here. And as the navigator, he's taking this moment to kind of just not really acclimate himself to the ship, because he is. It's just more so of getting used to the sky as opposed to the water. And he just kind of just stands there and he takes a big sniff and he's like, "Yep, smells like rain." Just kind of.
As he says that, the helmsman, Remy, who is a comparatively to Taven, Remy is a very skinny looking man. He is an air genasi. His hair is shock white and just completely unkept and just flowing with the breeze. He has the familiar blue tinges to his skin of most air genasi. And he is standing there minding the helm brilliantly. His eyes were actually closed for a good bit there until Taven spoke up. And then Remy's eyes open, and he kind of glances to the side and looks up at the skies and kind of, "I don't know what it is that you smell, my friend. I don't smell rain just yet."
No, it's there. The nose knows.
All right, fair enough. You should make sure that the meter knows, so that he can keep everyone informed.
Yep, I'll let the captain know.
No. Do not bother Captain Harlow with such things as that. You go to the meter first. Remember the protocol. Captain Harlow,
Yeah.
she is a particular woman when it comes to these things. She likes the chain of command. Even though we are a small ship, even though there are only 9 of us, we should follow the chain of command.
All right. He just kind of looks over at Remy and he's like, "Okay."
Do you want to
I'll
take
let him know.
Do you want to take a spin? And he kind of steps back and gestures towards the wheel at the helm.
It just cracks like a little smile. He's like, Then he just walks over to the wheel and he just grabs it. And it's one of those, like, it's one of those things where he's like, "Yeah, this is really nice."
As he grabs the wheel, Remy just kind of reaches over and flicks a couple of the switches. There's a console there that basically tracks quite a number of things, including the velocity that the ship is going at. Not in a number way. It's more of like a readout of magically alighting colored glass. And as long as everything stays green, then you're fine. And then similarly, there's instead of a horizontal track, there's a vertical track as well that monitors the altitude that the ship is at. And it's got green and several different lit up dots before it turns to yellow, before it potentially can turn to red. And you know that as things dip into the yellow, there is difficulties that can be posed to the crew as the air starts to get a little bit thinner. The ship does a fairly good job of maintaining heat. There's this almost bubble, so to speak, of magic that surrounds the ship that helps keep temperature fairly well regulated. It doesn't do well in like storms and the like, but it does do well in just the everyday temperature differences as you go higher and higher into the skies. And you have been instructed many times over, not just by Remy, but also those that you went through the training with for so many months, that you never want to dip into the red when it comes to altitude, because very, very quickly folks will find themselves having some measure of difficulty breathing and potentially staying conscious. So as you take the helm, the captain makes her way out from her quarters. She had, of course, been on the top deck and the helm, or near to the helm, for much of the initial portion of the voyage, but she had excused herself and left Demeter in charge while she went down and started documenting. This entire journey is, of course, about discovery and exploration. So all of you are required to keep journals and documentation about your daily activities and the like, and must report any strange things that might crop up during the journey. The captain had gotten an early start with hers, but as she steps out from her quarters, she is a powerful looking woman, half elf, somewhere in her late 120th year or so. She stands there almost defiant in a way to everything around her. She is well known in the various ports on the Sea of Entrescal, having spent a great deal of her time on the sea. She is one of the handful of captains from Sotruk itself that have lived so long upon the sea as to garner a reputation, as it were, one of being innovative to the various issues that can arise at sea. She has served in her more than a century of time on ships as a explorer and as a mentor, and she was, without question, the perfect person to take command of the Aurorus. And as she steps out in her very, very well tailored blue captain's jacket and the perfectly placed and pressed white shirt underneath, her trousers buttoned all down the leg where it needs, tall, long boots clicking upon the polished wood of the deck as she steps out. Demeter, of course, snaps at attention. As soon as she steps out, the two of them have served together for quite a number of years, decades, in fact, at this point. And those of you, I guess most all of you, now up on the deck of the ship, see her. She looks around at all of you with an approving gaze, locks eyes every now and then, particularly with you, Sylvie, has a little smile upon her face. She's always been happy to see you on board. And you hear her call out. And it's not in the typical way. You can hear the magically enhanced sounds of her voice kind of resonating throughout the ship, even below decks. Those of you that are familiar with her know that she's using a particular enhancement, magical enhancement, as it were, from her captain's jacket, as she calls out, says, "Crew of the Aurorus, a maiden voyage today means something. Not just to the people that set us off, not just to all of the significant amounts of labor that went into creating this wondrous vessel, but it matters to all of you. You may not see it yet, you may not fully understand it yet, but you will. Look forward to serving on this voyage with each and every one of you. Onward." And with that, Remy kind of steps in front of you, Taven taking the helm once again, and he reaches down and flicks another couple of switches, leans over to a small metal tube that is near to the helm, connecting directly to the engine room. And as he speaks into it, those of you in the engine room could hear Remy issue the command, "Make ready for full speed now." And he just kind of looks over at you, Taven, and winks a little bit as below decks, the engineer, as Yordi steps over, takes a big deep breath, places his hand on a console and starts turning a couple of the dials and changing a couple of settings here and there. The hum of the Arcanic engine rises to a hum that none of you have ever heard before. You've never run the ship at full speed. Its shakedown cruise was maybe half speed tops, but now there's no time for such things. Now's the time to explore. And as the ship makes way, you all find yourselves lurching a little bit. If you were unprepared, you stagger, perhaps catch yourself before completely flaying out upon the deck, and the ship takes full speed. The first few days of your voyage are awe and wonder. You catch sight of the horizon. You see Ysterra in a whole new way, an unfathomable one before. Your land-based perspective, completely myopic compared to what you can see now. Looking out for unmeasurable miles from your perspective in all directions. You see the tumultuous seas to the south as you journey west. You see the significant landmass of the continent you all hail from to the north. You kind of ride along this coast. It takes only a couple of days before you see another island, the continent. It's hard to tell at first, somewhat to the south. You start traveling in that direction under the captain's guidance. That is your mission, after all, exploration. And you see below you a new land. It's got a wide variety of spaces upon it. You see some desert on the northern reaches of it. You see several mountain chains here and there, quite a significant amount of jungle on the lower half. You spot a few cities here and there, and over the next many weeks, as the Aurorus sets down in various places upon this new continent, you get to meet an entire new people. You come to learn that this other continent is referred to as Cartasia, and that the Cartesian people are welcoming. Any of you that have traveled to Aubrath before can see a very distinct similarity between the people of Aubrath and the Cartesians. You get to try all new manners of food. You get to experience a few birthday celebrations, a funeral, and experience cultures in an almost unfathomable way. Something that none of you had ever considered, perhaps, or had maybe considered before this voyage, before you set out, but had no way of knowing the level of expectation that was in front of you. Over the course of those weeks, though, the crew starts to bond, perhaps, a little bit more. And if you wouldn't mind, I would be interested to note if there is anything in particular that you think happens to, with, about your characters as you venture and meet these Cartesians and come to know each other perhaps a little bit better. Who would like to go first?
Sylvie is overjoyed. She has dedicated her short but exciting life to exploration. It's not necessarily what her family would have chosen for her, but it's her calling. So getting to see new lands from up above, from on the ground, meeting the people is everything she could hope for. So she's definitely as a halfling, a big fan of trying all of the local foods, and asking our ship's cook what he thinks and if he could possibly replicate that for later on the trip as well. But yeah, she's just having the time of her life.
And Bronvin is certainly right there with Sylvie. He is not only serves as the ship's cook, he's also the medic. So there's perhaps a couple of instances where this new rich food doesn't settle very well for some people, and he is called upon to help assist with herbal remedies, or perhaps maybe just some very strong whiskey or ale coupled with. But he is right there with Sylvie, enjoying the food and the culture and the like. Andrew, how do you think Philbin is handling this new experience?
Yeah, Philbin will try to find a bard's college. If not, then like bards at a local tavern, and talk to them and tell them about amazing stories about himself and his mercantile adventures, his very successful businesses. And then he will tell them about this new thing that he's developed called Cities and Citizens. And it's a new structured way of telling stories, very interactive and imaginative, and a way to get patrons involved with storytelling. And you roll dice to see if things happen or not. And he's spreading this new way of telling stories with bards across every continent that he lands on.
Nice. He probably gets a fair number of takers for such an endeavor. Yeah, that's nice. I love that. What about you, Ian? How's Taven doing here?
I think Taven's probably one of the people that the medic kind of has to like help out with. The spices aren't really good for my stomach, but I'm having a good time. So definitely interested in seeing a lot of the people. He's still kind of keeping to himself. I think the one thing that a lot of the over time, from like conversation to conversation, I think most of the crew starts to notice that Taven is very religious and a devout follower of Lunesh. And it's something that he kind of like keeps real close to the chest, but it's more so of like a comfortable, like a safety blanket. And so from time to time, he kind of just mentions it offhand, in one of those I can't sleep moments, and I'm sitting up here looking at the sky type deal, and, little wisps of wisdom. But no, he's having fun, even though it doesn't look like it is on his face, outside of the stomach concerns every so often when they stop.
Nice. It is worth noting that at least one or two instances during the many weeks that you guys are exploring the land of Cartesia, you do run into other followers of Lunesh, and perhaps even a temple dedicated to them. So you're not, Taven is not alone, I'll say, in his devoutness in this circumstance. And Deb, what do you think? What do you think Kaylee is up to during these several weeks?
Kaylee is right there next to Sylvie, trying all of the foods and seeing all of the local sites. I think she also checks in with Taven. They spent a bunch of time together before the journey, just going over the ship and things like navigation. And so just checking in with Taven to see, like, how do you think the first leg went? Did it go okay from up top? I don't know if things seemed good in the engine room.
It was pretty bumpy. like when he first kind of pushed it through. But I mean, it's nothing really different.
Full speed is, I didn't know how it would go, but we made it here.
Yeah, you would think that they would, I don't know, have us hold on to something or like have a belt before we go into full speed. It's just kind of like, whoosh, Maybe
we should suggest that. That's a good idea.
Like a banister, something that we can like hold on to.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
So this is a perfect opportunity, we'll say. So as you all are, as you all have reached the far western side of the land of Cartasia, you're setting sail once again. The sky's alight. You've been fairly lucky with the weather. There's been some light rain, as expected. No significant gusts of wind or changes in the ley lines or anything that was not already anticipated. The ship is doing remarkably well on its maiden voyage. It's also been met all across Cartasia with a significant amount of awe and wonder. The people of Cartasia are not primitive by any stretch of the imagination. Many of you could find yourselves getting lost in Cartasia just like you would be at home. There's not a significant amount of difference there. The language perhaps was a little bit rough at first, but all of you were given magical items to help you with getting across language barriers, the ability to understand and speak in other languages not known to you. And so as you arise from this beautiful land behind you of Cartasia and continue your journey west, let's perhaps shift gears a second. Evening has set in, and a lot of you, all four of you, tend to find yourselves most of the time on the evening shift of things. The other members of the crew, I mean, given how small the crew is, everything kind of has to be broken up into shifts where most of you tend to sleep during the day, perhaps. Philbin finds himself very frequently taken advantage of, I guess, a little bit in the fact that he only needs 4 hours of reverie instead of sleep. And so there's frequent circumstances now where Philbin has to kind of pick up some slack, so to speak, with only needing 4 hours of restful meditation, as it were. And so the evening shift, as it has become to be known, is about to commence. The four of you are sitting down with Dimitri, with the first mate, for a dinner with Bronwyn. You're gathered in the mess, which is basically just off to the side of the quarterdeck where several of the crew sit and some sleep and the like. And as you sit in front of this small bar top area, you can kind of think of Bronwyn's cooking methodology as a hibachi style, where they cook everything in front of you. He kind of that's how he feeds people generally. He expects, for the most part, since the only place that there isn't a whole lot of room for everyone to gather up, above and beyond the fact that someone actually has to be manning the helm pretty much at all times. It's almost impossible for all of you to gather up for a meal unless the ship has set down for the day or for the night or the like. And so in this instance, the four of you are gathered up. You can see Bronwyn is sitting there preparing some fish, a strange fish, not really native to where the rest of you are from, that you all picked up while you were in Cartasia. It's referred to as rainbow trout, as it were, and it has a luminescence about it that is almost magical in a way. Sylvie, I think, perhaps enjoys it more than anyone, particularly because the way that Bronvin was taught how to cook it in Cartasia, there's a hint of spice to it that just makes it extra flavorful and perhaps just enough heat to cause some to be uncomfortable. But he's sitting there preparing the trout in front of you. The five of you, the four of you, and Demeter are all sitting there in front. A few of you may have just woken up, perhaps, before getting ready for your shift. It's entirely up to you. And Demeter is standing there, or sitting there, and he has a bit of a concern on his face. It's a notable, particularly for him, because he's generally very stoic and easy to read in whenever something is wrong. And the few times that it's happened, you all can kind of pick up on it fairly well.
You okay there?
He is kind of holding a cup with some water in it, and it's fine. It's just I don't know. There's been some I've gotten wind of some strange things happening since we started the trip, and I'm curious. Have any of you had any kind of takes a long sip of water before he finishes? Have any of you noticed any peculiar things on the trip lately? With the ship, I mean.
I mean, I've noticed that it gets gory damn cold randomly or bloody hot in random parts of the ship. If I'll be walking down the hall, then I'll be freezing, and then I'll walk into the latrine, and then I'll be boiling, and then I'll be fine in another room.
That's definitely right in line with what I was thinking about. I'm assuming that you're writing that down, by the way.
Absolutely, of course.
Every single one of you knows he's just lying right there.
I've noticed some stuff. I was there, man.
No crossing the streams.
Right. I noticed some stuff. It's weird. It's almost like so I know we're in the sky, but like certain areas of the ship, I feel a breeze, but it's like an ocean breeze, like a mist, like if I'm like faintly off the shore. It's weird. I could smell it. I mean, it's not a smell that I can easily forget, but it's just a little bit odd that it's so way high up here.
It's almost as if we're flying above the ocean.
Don't you have somewhere to be?
Yeah, absolutely. He'll get up and go to his room if he can.
Well, you should know that the crew's quarters are shared amongst the majority of the crew. So you're never truly alone. There are places that you can go on the ship to be alone, but your quarters is not among them. This isn't a huge vessel. You don't have private spaces.
Yeah, fair enough.
You have private spaces in the sense that none of you want to mess with each other's stuff. Like everyone has that level of respect for each other. But as you stand, the first officer's like, sit.
Philbin reluctantly sits.
As Philbin sits, Bronvin just kind of chuckles and starts handing out small plates of fish and some like figs and other fruits and vegetables that are from Cartasia, and sets down not a pint, perhaps a half pint of a honeyed ale in front of each of you, and he is kind of wiping his hands with a cloth, and he says, I've my oven keeps turning itself on and off sometimes. It's kind of weird. I don't know if that fits in with what you're saying. And the first officer just kind of eyes go up and he's, yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. That's, correct me if I'm wrong, but if the oven just randomly kicks on and there's not someone there monitoring it, can't something happen? And Brahman's just like, I don't know. Hasn't happened. Nothing's happened so far. I mean, it's been doing it for about, I don't know, a week or two. First officer just.
Yeah, we're probably going to blow up.
So looking through my notes, and Sylvie has her whole book open as each of them
it's
have
like got
mentioned.
5 times as many pages filled out as anybody else's.
Oh, totally. She pulls out 2, has to figure out which one is the correct one that she's currently on.
Right.
And she flips through and she'll say, okay, yeah, the hot and cold, the oven, okay. One of the things that I've kind of seen is, there's some flickering, I guess, of lights here and there. I didn't think much of it. Generally, from what I have experienced in my limited but exciting travels, it feels like the flickering happens when we sort of like cross into new magic, or like pass a ley line or something to that effect. So I didn't really think much of it, but if all of these things are happening, maybe it's a very strong sort of magic that we're facing. This is very interesting. And she just starts taking more notes.
That's good to know. That's definitely good to know. And he kind of looks over at Kaylee. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I'm just going to sit over here and incessantly mumble to myself for a little bit.
Wait. He shakes his head for a second at Taven and he looks over to Kaylee. Do you have anything to report?
I guess with all these other things, it was nothing that I really paid a lot of attention to, but sometimes I hear these like whispers or melodies in the engine room. It's only when the ship is quiet, and it doesn't ever sound bad. It's nothing that I feel like needs to be fixed. It's like, if you're standing near a canyon and you shout, there are the like echoes bouncing off. It's sort of like that I
Kaylee,
hear.
Please don't take this the wrong way. I truly mean no offense, but do you hear these voices other times? Or is it strictly...
It's only in the engine room and only when the ship is quiet. It's not voices in my head, Sylvie.
Okay. And she takes more notes.
All right, then. And he just kind of looks over at Bronvin and then looks over at the oven. It's like he's checking to make sure that the oven is off. Just kind of nods to himself. Well, make sure that you're documenting all of these things. We need to keep up on what's happening.
Is there anything else? What have you heard? What else have you heard about?
Ship's haunted. We're all going to explode.
Well, I've talked to Remy a little bit, and I mean, don't get me wrong, it's Remy, so it's a little head in the clouds, so to speak, as we all are, I guess, now. But he has reported a few instances where the ship seems to veer off course without any direction from him to do so.
And that's not just like a wind thing?
No.
A couple of degrees or like massively?
Blissfully to the left.
All right. He's an air genasi. He can read the wind better than any of us. So if it was just the wind, I think he'd be able to sum it up to that. But no, this time the way he put it to me, and I'm not even going to attempt that weird accent of his. The way he put it to me was that the ship seems to go where it wants sometimes.
If I could, just real quick, he also drives with his eyes closed. So, I mean, that could be part of it. That's just me.
Do you think it's safe for us to just still be in the air? Don't you think we should probably land and, check this out?
Well, considering that we are now sitting over top of a violent ocean sea a few, 1,000 feet below us, I don't think that would be a brilliant idea.
And technically, there's nothing wrong with the ship. I would know if there was something wrong with the ship.
Right. No, I've talked to the captain about it. The captain is aware of the incidents that have been reported to me. I'm going to go and speak to the captain again as soon as we're done here, as soon as you all go on deck and set about your evening's activities. I'm going to talk to Harlow.
What has the ship said to you?
I mean, nothing, it doesn't speak to me. It's just, and
I'm totally okay. I'm flying totally normal.
No. I can't decipher anything out of the whispers. There's nothing, it's not, I don't know if it's speaking. If it is, I can't hear it that way. But I know what I'm doing in the engine room. I know my way around pretty well, and I know there's nothing wrong.
Isn't that kind of wrong, though? If there's nothing wrong, but things are wrong.
I mean, there's things that need to be, adjusted here and there, but it's not.
I don't mean with your stuff. I just mean in general, the fact that we can't really figure out what's going on. All of these things are happening.
Sure,
I
do think that it's troubling, but that there's nothing that can be fixed.
Right.
These things happen.
To summarize what you're saying, there's nothing overly broken for us to actually focus on to fix. I get that. This is just something we need to kind of keep in mind going forward. The Archmages talked about this is all experimental. Nobody's ever done what we've done with Aurorus before. This is perhaps new territory for a lot of people. And so we just need to pay attention. We need to stay on top of these things and let people know if the oven turns on randomly. And Bronvin just kind of smiles wide and reaches down and picks up an ale and salutes before taking a swig. Oh.
Is there a way that we can get word to or from the other ships to see if they're experiencing the same thing?
The captain has already reached out to some of the other captains. We have, of course, the sending devices to connect us with the other ships, as well as home base and Sotruk. People are being informed, but it's on the low key for right now. We're not including it in the daily reports or anything like that. It's more just personal communications. And until something significant happens, we're trying to keep it low key for everyone. Obviously, we know about it. Remy, the other crew members have talked to me about things. So just keep up on it. All right?
I can do that.
Right. In the meantime, and he kind of just pushes the fish to the side and just kind of holds his stomach for a second. He shares a knowing glance with Taven. I'm going to go get some kip. Best of luck on the evening shift. And he just kind of nods at you.
As soon as he gets up and turns his back, I take his plate and just go for it.
100%. Bronvin was actually already reaching for it to slide it towards you, and he just kind of
slap his hand.
Pulls his hand. What was that
It's
for?
good.
I was giving it to you.
Oh, good. Okay, perfect.
He looks over at Philbin, kind of looks him up and down. Seems like you could use an extra serving too.
What do you mean by that?
Well, you need a little bit of meat, is what I'm saying. You're scrawny. You're puny. You need some extra food.
Very small. You're a very small person.
You're just gonna attack me like that? I'm just sitting here. Excuse me.
I'm not attacking you. I'm trying to help
very
you.
attacked.
Well, I'm sorry you feel attacked. I'm trying to help you. You're my crew. I'm looking out for you.
I don't think he's burned enough calories today to need more yet, though.
Hey, I sweat on that toilet for like 3 hours, and it could have been the fish. Maybe there's nothing wrong.
You were on the toilet for 3 hours. That was you.
Oh yeah, that was me.
That was you.
Absolutely.
You know, it's like your job to clean that up, right? I won't touch that. That's on you.
You're saying it hasn't been cleaned for like 3 days?
What?
You haven't cleaned it.
Bronvin just kind of shakes his head and sighs deep. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. All right, here you go. And he reaches down underneath the counter and he brings up a loaf of cinnamon bread. And he just like an entire loaf that's basically as big as Sylvie's head. And he just kind of moves it over to Philbin and says, here you go. Take that. And perhaps that'll get you through the entirety of the night. And I'm not expecting it back, if you know what I mean.
That's very, very kind of you. Philbin will break it up into I guess four pieces and offer everybody a piece.
It's for you, you friggin' dumbass. You're supposed to eat it, not share it. This is why you're skinny.
Very small. Very small.
It's all part of the business model. I offer something for free, you know, like I go to all these bards, these local taverns, these bard colleges, and I say, well, there's this amazing system. You can use it for free. And then we come back later, and if there are any
wait a second, pointy ears. You're saying that you just offered my bread that I gave to you to your companions here for free on the notion that the next time it's not going to be? Is that what you're implying?
That's the model. That's it. Exactly.
He just kind of leans forward, and he's a dwarf, but he is massive, right? And he seems to just grow as he leverages himself up on this cooktop, and he just leans forward, almost looming over Philbin, and he says, that's not how it works on my ship there, matey. This place, we're a crew. Everything is shared. You got me?
Yes, I'm a very small elf. I get it.
Very small.
He just kind of reaches out and pats you on the arm. Not hard or anything. Maybe felt hard to Philbin, but like he wasn't trying to be hard with it. And he pats you on the shoulder. He says, right, you better start getting it, my boy. Because up here, we're with each other and we're all we've got. And when the thunderstorms start happening, and when things start going wonky, and when it's more than just whispers against the walls and lights being all weird and strange smells and the like, when things go really wrong, we're all we've got. You understand?
He gives a wholehearted aye.
Good. Now eat your fucking bread. And he kind of sits back and takes another swig of his ale.
Well, I got to go to the washroom.
Take a change of clothes with you.
Clean it?
It better be to clean it.
He doesn't say anything to you guys. He just goes straight to the washroom.
At least use the same one. We don't need to.
Well, there is only one.
Oh.
Great.
So,
well.
I'm not really a violent type, but I will toss him over the ship if he doesn't clean that bathroom.
I will help you.
Much obliged.
Sylvie, what else do you have in all of the... You have written quite a lot.
It's kind of like a combination of notes, diligent note taking, obviously, as that is what we've been assigned to do. But then, like on opposite pages, I kind of, it's like a diary of sorts, and so I just kind of write what is happening, my experience, and
But everything, I'm doing that too, but
not everything. I mean, I actually want to like experience the things, but I think it's important. If our whole journey is supposed to be about exploration, I think it matters what we all think of it.
Are you exploring how dirty the latrine is? What is there to write about? We're just doing the same thing every day.
But it's not the same every day. I mean, like, the work is almost the same every day with some slight nuance. But I mean, look out there. It's different. It's a lot of ocean, but it's different every day. And the stars are different, and the moons in the sky are different. And it's just, don't you love it?
Yeah. Maybe different parts of it. No, I do. It's great up here. It's different. It's, we're not stuck on the ground. We get to see the world and what's out there. I guess I just find the experience exciting, and the hum of the ship's engine and seeing her fly.
Yeah. That's exactly what I mean. You should write that down.
I do. Just not apparently as much as you do.
Well, it's not. Oh gosh, now I'm self-conscious.
No. Do your thing. I think it's great.
Oh, I will. I'm not going to stop. It's now I just feel kind of like a little bit weird about it.
No, don't feel weird. I'm sorry. I shouldn't.
No, it's okay. It's all right. Just feel weird. So that was strange. Are we supposed to be scared about all that's happening, or
it doesn't seem like it? I mean, I haven't noticed anything that's like threatening. So
no, it all seems like a bunch of small, inconsequential things, but I don't know. He seemed at least a little concerned, so I'm curious.
I think concern is warranted. I just don't think there's, much we can do about it right now.
Yeah. Just have to wait and see.
Yeah.
Well, I'll see if there's anything else I can snag from the kitchen, and I guess it's off to work.
Yeah.
So Bronvin, of course, happily gives any food to you before he settles in. Bronvin is also very well known on the ship to sleep weird hours. He never sleeps a full night. He kind of sleeps 4 hours and 2 hours kind of here and there whenever he can get them. And he just never really seems tired. No one knows why. And none of you actually have ever individually seen him sleep. You just, every now and then he'll be like, all right, I'm going to go catch some Z's or something. And he just kind of disappears. And then a couple hours later comes back. Yeah. But you all set about your evening shift, as you have done many times over at this point. You are, with all of the various stops that you all did in Cartasia, you have been probably on your journey for almost a month at this point, and you are once again over the oceans of the Prime Sea. the chaos kind of resonating below you. Anytime you're on deck, you mostly hear the hum of the engines, of course, the howl of the wind moving through the ship as it cuts through the air, feeling the vibrations of the Aurorus seemingly transferred from the Arcanic engine, or maybe the ley lines. It's, for most of you, it's kind of hard to tell. I think Sylvie probably has a sense more than the rest of you that the ley lines seem to emit a power in and of themselves. You have to have a certain sensitivity to the arcane, as it were, to be able to just feel it kind of within you. And so you continue your journey, leaving Cartasia behind, looking across the vast, vast oceans. It's a sight. Certainly all of you had seen the oceans before, but the chaos of them, the tumultuousness, the danger. Most people feel an inherent sense of fear when they look upon the prime sea. But now, as all of you look in every direction, all you see is the prime sea. The chaos, the power, perhaps feeling a little bit of fear. And now, perhaps a week or so since leaving Cartasia behind, we find a couple of you on another evening shift. Ian, Andrew. We find Taven and Philbin on the main deck of the ship, or perhaps Philbin on the main deck, and then a few feet away and slightly above on the helm, or at the helm, is Taven. The evening is brilliant. A night sky unlike any that perhaps you've experienced up to this point. Taven, for you in particular, this evening means something more than perhaps it did previously. There's some clouds, but it's mostly clear. You see the stars above in a way that you have not seen previously. You see the 3 moons of the world clearly, brilliantly, larger than you've ever seen them before in your life. Lunarin in particular is massive in the sky, easily 2 or 3 times its normal size from your perspective, being up this high in the air. You have this natural instinct that you have to kind of suppress to increase the altitude of the ship, this urge that you fight back because you know better. You don't want to endanger your crew, but there's a part of you that wants to go higher, that wants to touch Lunarin, if you could. Philbin, being decently aware of people, your insight and experience with reading others, you kind of pick up on this with Taven. You can see him just staring into the heavens, into the sky above, and there's a definite, he's experiencing something.
Oi, Tave, you okay?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a lie.
Okay.
Philbin will
fine.
scramble up to the upper deck, very, very carefully and cautiously, and remembering not to look down. You all right, big guy?
it's just this is a pretty night.
It's gorgeous.
And, I don't know. It's almost like I can touch the moons, you know.
Yeah, I've
Being
never seen
so high up.
I've never seen them so big before.
They could get bigger.
What do you mean by that?
Or we can get closer. We can go a little higher. I just you don't feel that. You don't feel any of that right now. Like maybe it's the night air. It's I don't know. You don't smell that. It's I don't know.
You want to go a little higher?
Why not? I mean,
I won't tell you.
It's just us. We're good.
I mean, this thing flies itself, right? That's what I heard.
Yeah, it flies itself.
Yeah. You wanna go to the front of the ship?
No.
all right.
I mean, how are we gonna put it higher for the front of the ship? The helm's back here. You can go if that's where you want to go. Like, you're muted.
It's fine. We don't have to go, but let's just go a little higher.
Is this Miko? Is this something that like I know getting a little bit higher in altitude is going to be dangerous, but like I could push it a little bit, right?
Sure. You're still in the green.
Yeah, I think I'm going to do that.
Okay. You, with practiced ease at this point, having flown the ship on every single day of your voyage so far, you reach down, flip a couple of switches, pull on a couple of levers, change a dial, and the hum of the engine picks up and starts rising into the sky. As it picks up, Deb, below decks in the engine room, or I should say, on her way to the engine room, Kaylee and Sylvie kind of chatting with one another as, you have want to do over the past several weeks, the two of you kind of bonding together. You hear a noise. You almost feel it before you hear it come from the engine room. And it's not anything that bothers you. It's not like the kind of thing that, you look up in fear to and there's that flight or flight response. It's more of that faint echo happening again. Except it's strong enough this time that Sylvie, in response to perhaps seeing Kaylee respond in her way, you kind of stop and you can hear it too. There's this faint, almost like a wolf's howl at the moon that kind of echoes from the engine room down the corridor and then just moves past you.
Wait, is that it?
Do you hear it now?
I think so. Interesting. Does it, if I start walking in different directions, does it get louder in any way?
Oh no, it passed and went.
Oh, okay.
It passed and went. It was almost like an echoing howl that resonated through the corridor and moved past you, and then now you can't hear it.
Is this haunted? Is that the explanation? Is that what we're going with? That kind of feels silly.
What else is it? I don't know.
I mean, it sounded like a ghost.
Yes.
There's probably a reasonable explanation for this, but I don't know what that would be. This is your area of expertise, so...
No, it's not. My area of expertise is nuts and bolts and, engine arcane magic, not whatever this is.
Speaking of engine arcane magic, technically you're supposed to go and relieve Yordi at this point.
Are we not on our way there? I assume
you've stopped
doing a walk and talk.
Oh, I had assumed you had stopped in the corridor
Great.
and we're having this conversation.
I will continue on my way to the engine room.
Okay. Sylvie in tow, I am assuming.
Are you do you want to come? Are you busy?
No. If I was busy, I wouldn't be talking to you.
You can take more notes about whatever is happening.
Perfect. Okay. Let's go.
As the pair of you reach the engine room, you find Yordi working fervently in the room, busier than either of you have ever seen him at this point. He is darting around from position to position in the room, taking measurements of the engine. You see him pull out a few wands, grab a tool at some point or another. He seems to be casting magic, using the devices and tools of the room, using the various readouts and magical displays. There is a point at which he presses his hand down on a particular silver sphere, and as he does so, the engine kind of alights, and a illusory version of the engine kind of separates itself, almost like two separate objects, three-dimensionally pulling apart from the engine, and it's all translucent and alight, and there's various ribbons of magical energy that flow through this illusory version of the arcanic engine, and it's like getting an inside view of what's going on inside of it. And as soon as you see all of this, Kaylee, as soon as Kaylee sees all of this, she realizes very, very quickly that there's something more happening with the engine now. This isn't just the noise that you had heard before and what you and Sylvie had both heard. This is there's something going on.
My passive investigation is 27. So do I get any insight as to what it is?
27. Okay. Yeah. I think you're gonna get something.
Great.
Wow. I was about to have you roll for an investigation check. Too,
no need.
Yeah, no need. At this point, I would say Kaylee is, she's not an engineer, right? She doesn't count herself as an engineer, but she has a natural aptitude for it. There's an affinity that she has developed very quickly on board the Aurorus, giving her the ability to almost feel the engine. And as she sees the illusory version of the engine, something clicks with her. You can tell very assuredly there is a rhythm. There's a magical pulse taking place within the arcanic engine. It's not quite a heartbeat, but that's the closest analog that Kaylee can think about right at this moment. And she realizes this. She comes to this conclusion herself as Yordi is frantically trying to understand what it is that he's reading and sensing in the ship.
I think she doesn't want to like interrupt Yordi because she knows how focused he gets in his work. But I will turn to Sylvie. Something is, I don't know, wrong's not the right word. Different.
I mean, tell me how I can help.
I don't know if you can. I don't know if I can.
Okay. I'll
Sylvie,
stay out of the way.
roll an Arcana check for me, Sylvie.
Okay. There it is. All right. Oh, balls. That is 12.
For what it's worth, you do have an advantage right now if you wanted to use it.
I do. That is right. Oh my gosh. Thank you. Let's do it. Oh, Jesus Christ. All right. Well, that's a 13. Thanks so much for the advantage. It helps.
I mean, every little bit.
No, totally.
Bit matters.
It helped.
Yeah. Great. So, as experienced with the arcane arts as Sylvie is, in the way that she kind of grew up and meshed in it, right? This is new to her. This is unlike any magic that she has ever seen. There's going to be some sense here of almost being like gobsmacked in wonder by this. This is another day in which Sylvie is just amazed by the experience that she's living in right now.
I guess like in that deep sense of wonder, not really realizing it, Sylvie sort of starts to hum a bit. And I would love to give some bardic inspiration to our frantic friend who is attempting to deal with whatever shenanigans are going on.
Okay. Remind me again what college Sylvie is?
That's a great question. Lore.
Yeah. So as Sylvie kind of summons up this learned magic that she has, the magic of knowledge and the magic of music that she has come to know so well, she sends out this note, this pure note of musical arcane energy, the kind that she has done many times over in her life when she wants to inspire someone to learn something new. But before it can reach Yordi, only she can see this because only she is aware of the magic of her ability. It gets pulled into the arcanic engine.
Well, that is interesting.
And I think Kaylee is aware enough to know that Sylvie used her magical ability just then, even if she can't know what happened with the arcanic engine. But she also would be able to gauge Sylvie's response as something weird.
What's interesting?
I tried to use some magic, but it kind of just got pulled into the engine. Is that a normal thing?
No.
I really haven't spent much time down here. I'm
No.
sorry.
As soon as Kaylee says no, simultaneously Yordi says no at the exact same moment. two of Yordi and Kaylee kind of look at each other, and there's a shared moment of understanding between them before Yordi turns back and says, What do you mean? Can you elaborate?
Yeah, so I saw that you were struggling, and I wanted to help a little. So you're doing great. I'm sorry. Yeah. So I hummed a little tune, and I wanted to maybe just give you a little inspiration. And normally, when that happens, I can feel the magic sort of go where it needs to go, and it does the thing. But it kind of got sucked into the engine. At least that's how it felt.
Describe that more clearly. Sucked into the engine.
Yes, more clearly.
So if we're talking, answer this question then. If we're talking about the Arcana, if we're talking about the weave of magic, so to speak, you're saying that it undid itself as it got pulled into the engine.
Kind of, yeah. It just, yeah. It it's not like it diverted and flew into the engine. It kind of just got pulled a little bit.
All right.
Is that bad?
I have an idea that I want to try. And he looks over at Kaylee.
What do you want me to do?
What's the most potent spell you've got prepared right now?
Scatter? Shatter?
Perfect.
One of them?
That should do nicely. Right here, right now. Go for it. I have a sense.
I will cast a 6th level shatter at the engine.
Okay. Roll a spellcaster ability check for me. So in this case, it's your intelligence, and you can add your proficiency bonus.
All right, so I rolled a natural 20 plus 4 intelligence plus 4 proficiency, 28.
Okay, then. With perfect clarity, with an acute awareness of trying to shape the effect of her shatter spell to do the least amount of damage to the room as possible, to her companions, trying to avoid obliterating Yordi right in front of her. You summon forth this spell. And if you could, Deb, describe how it is that Kaylee casts this magic and what would normally happen, the manifestation of it.
Of course. Normally, what would happen is Kaylee would just take a second and breathe, and then she would just put her hands out in front of her. And her magic is a little sparkly. And so there would just be this sort of wave of like silvery pinkish energy that bursts out and then explodes into like a cloud of pink shimmer.
As this pink shimmer starts its explosion, there is a visible concussive wave of force that emanates from it, kind of preceding it as it begins to expand. And all three of you in the room are able to witness and see clearly as this concussive force starts to expand rapidly and violently. It gets maybe not more than a foot in diameter before it just stops, frozen in the air. And slowly, bits and pieces of it start getting pulled apart like panes of a shattered glass, little fragments getting sucked visibly into the arcanic engine. To which Yordi just stands there, his eyes wide, his jaw agape, and an obvious smile upon his face.
Fuck you, Jordy. I just cast Shatter at the engine. That could have gone so poorly, and I'm not sure that it went well.
He looks over to you, kind of blinks several times, and then lunges for you, wrapping you up in a giant hug. And just almost like an excited whisper says, "No, that was wonderful. Thank you." And he just squeezes her tightly in obvious rapture from what just happened. He kind of steps back, has both of his hands on her shoulders, looks her in the eyes and says, "You don't understand. This means that the engine is more than what it was created for. It's more than what we ever could have possibly imagined. It isn't just self-sustaining. It isn't just power that can be redirected. It's capable of absorbing more than we ever thought."
Is that a good thing?
The possibilities are endless. Can you imagine if we could channel that into other parts of the ship? We could create barriers to absorb lightning as we ride through thunderstorms. We could do more than just travel upon ley lines. We could move off of them. We could sustain the ship through more than just the power of the world.
Okay.
It's magnificent.
I cast Shatter at the engine.
I know. And as soon as he says, "I know," we're going to move back above deck where we find the night sky getting, the moons perhaps getting just a little bit closer as Taven and Philbin are gently nudging the ship just a little bit higher, just a little bit higher, just a little bit higher. And Taven, you're kind of locked into this. You're kind of absorbed entirely into what you're seeing, what you want to do, what you're experiencing. And you don't notice the moment at which the green altitude indicator shifts to amber.
Philbin will reach out and grab Taven's forearm and kind of brace himself and steady himself on this big orc, because he's just a little elf. You know, Taven, I feel like I can be honest with you. And I know you won't judge me because you're a man of very little words, but I have to let someone know. I am deathly afraid of heights. Like, absolutely terrified right now. Yeah, I knew you'd get it. I knew you'd get it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Would have been good to know before you came on the airship.
Yeah, but seems like you want to go higher, so let's go higher.
All right. just gently keeps increasing the altitude a little bit.
As Taven gently increases the altitude, as you push what you're doing even further, the clouds change. There is an immediate and very noticeable roiling within the clouds. A purple luminescence begins to manifest within them, burst within a cloud, almost like when you see lightning illuminate a cloud, but you don't actually see the bolt that strikes down to the earth. You see that happening. And then quicker than either of you can measure, quicker than you could respond to anything else, the clouds seem to come out of nowhere, just roiling around, swirling and swarming the ship. Storm alights almost instantaneously upon your ship. Taven, you've experienced thunderstorms before. You've experienced storms that seem to come out of nowhere, cloudbursts and the like. This is nothing like anything you've ever experienced. This is arcane energy manifest inside of a thunderous boom, the echo of which resonates throughout the entirety of the ship. Below deck, any crew that were resting immediately awake. Those of you that were in the engine room are immediately caught off guard as you hear that boom, and all of a sudden, the ship lurches. Ian, I need for you to please roll a dexterity check with proficiency, because you are the assistant helmsman and you are proficient with helming the ship.
$28.
Nice. You wrest control of the ship very quickly as it lurches hard to port. It turns so rapidly, you instinctively go aft and attempt to wrest control of the ship before it can flip 180 degrees over, and are able to adroitly navigate this change in the air, this change in the ley line as it just pulses around you and almost explodes. But you barely have any time, either of you, to catch your breath as amongst this thunderous, riotous, arcane lightning that all of a sudden seems to be swirling around your ship, you see a shape emerging from one of the clouds. An enormous bird, easily twice the size of the Aurorus Explorer, manifests out from the cloud. It doesn't seem to fly through the cloud as much as it simply emerges in the space beside the cloud. The arcane purplish energy wafting off of it, the lightning that rides across its wings, feathers, but not quite feathers. It's corporeal, but at the same time, it has this essence about it that you know it is a manifestation of the elements of arcane energy, of all of these things melded into one. I need for everyone to please roll initiative.
Okay.
That's a couple of good rolls, I think, or at least one good roll that I saw.
I got 25.
Probably good to have your current helmsman on a 25. What'd you get, Sylvie?
9.
Nice. Kaylee?
12.
And Philbin?
11.
All right. So as we begin this It's not combat per se. This is more of a skill challenge type scenario. The initiative is just important because of potential circumstances that can happen if you fail to do things, or depending upon what actions that you take. So don't think of in terms of you're being restrained to 6 seconds per se in this circumstance, just so you all know. Taven, the Aurorus is flying almost directly towards this manifested elemental bird that is seen to have emerged out of the thunderous storm. What would you like to do?
I mean, I'd like to steer the ship away from the bird, kind of like get out of its direct path.
Okay. You may go ahead and do so. The same roll that you had made before. Your target number for this instance is 20. Because this creature is immense in size.
I use my advantage here.
All right.
24. That
Nice.
helps.
So with a 24, you are able to steer the Aurorus in such a way as this elemental being kind of surges forward, you move above it, and you both can feel the power of it as the lightning coming off of its wings as it flies underneath of the Aurorus. The lightning kind of roils up around the hull, some of it cascading off of the mast and the sail. The wings in particular just get lit up with the energy of the lightning. Both of you standing at the helm, grabbing onto things to keep yourself from falling overboard. Your hair just immediately rises as the lightning swirls all around the helm. You can feel the hair on your arms stand up. You can feel the electricity in the air as it ripples around you. And that will bring us to... So the crew starts to awaken, right? And that sort of thing. The captain bursts out onto the main deck from her captain's quarters. You can see a few of the other crew members coming up from below deck onto the top. The captain immediately looks over to you, Taven, and says, "Report, helmsman. What's happening?"
There's a big elemental bird that's trying to attack us and bring us down.
And as you say that, there's this roar of sound, energy, power just manifesting behind you as the bird emerges in the trail of the Aurorus and starts making a turn as if it's coming back towards you.
That's a bird.
That's a bird. All right.
Yeah.
And she reaches up to her lapel and brushes her thumb against one of the pips there, and her voice resonates out once again with that thaumaturgically enhanced power. Everyone inside of the ship can hear her as she says, all hands, we are under attack. I need everyone to stations." And you know that to stations, this is a circumstance that you've all trained for. Each of you has specific roles. Philbin, your general task in such an instance as this is to maintain control of the sail so that the helm has as much possibility of navigating during such a situation as possible. In this case, Deb, Kaylee is not required to stay in the engine room. She's actually supposed to immediately grab her tools in preparation for damage that might happen to the ship in such an instance and having to repair something outside of the engine room. Yordi is responsible for staying in the engine room. Ian, since you are at the helm, your responsibility is to stay at the helm until Remy appears. Kaylee, generally speaking, your job is to do whatever the first mate tells you to, but in no such instance that you have an order, you are to go to the cannon. You are to assume the worst.
On it.
Yeah. So as the crew starts going to where their tasks are alight, that brings us to you, Kaylee.
I have a mechanical servant, so I'm going to take that with me as well.
What does your mechanical servant look like?
Just a like metal humanoid. His name is Tig. And he
is he a welder? Please tell me he's a welder.
He was welded together. That's why his name is Tig.
Okay.
I made him. Yes. So he's with me. Do I see that anything has happened so far that needs my attention?
I mean, you're still in the engine room. When this call goes out.
Booking it to the deck then.
Okay. So as you book it to the deck, Sylvie, I'm assuming, is right behind you. You get up to the main deck. You see this giant elemental bird that isn't made just of the elements, but seems to also be a manifestation of the arcane. And as it swoops around, you feel the ship lurch underneath your feet, as if for the briefest of moments, the arcanic engine stopped. And in that brief moment, there's a sense of free fall that happens, but it only lasts for a second before the engine motivates once again and you're still moving.
Well, that doesn't seem good.
Probably not. Do you have anything in particular you would like to do, or are you just prepping for something else to happen?
I can see the bird. How far away is the bird?
I mean, at this point, it's probably like 100 feet away. You could wait for it to get closer if you wanted to prepare to do something. That would happen in the next few seconds. So
would like to do that. I am going to prepare a first level catapult and take one of the loose cannonballs that are on the deck and try to shoot it at the bird.
So your cannon is not a cannon in that sense. It's an arcane cannon.
Yeah.
It actually manifests arcane energy through the crystal. But I will say that there is some like a barrel or something equivalent that you could use for that purpose.
I just want to shoot something that's not strapped down at this bird.
Okay. So at the end of your turn, the bird does swoop around. You unleash the catapult upon it. Go ahead and roll what you need to roll. Does it have to do a saving throw?
It's a Dex 16 save.
Okay, it chooses to fail. It does not avoid your attack.
Okay. You're going to roll? There we go. Oh, sorry. It rolled twice. The first one was a 16.
All right.
16 damage.
Yes. So as this mundane ship's object gets picked up, what does it look like for Kaylee as she uses her arcane power to do this?
It's like almost similar to Mage Hand, where it just sort of like picks up this barrel that's on the deck and just sort of overhand slings it alley-oop style at the bird.
Okay. Yeah, as the larger, version of Mage Hand kind of picks this up and flings it forward, the arcane energy infuses the object, right? This isn't just like a random barrel hitting something. The arcane power of it roils within and turns this object into a destructive force. And it slams into this bird. And it's literally like a car hitting a bug. Nothing happens to the bird. And as it swoops in, I need for you to please make a dexterity saving throw.
$18.
Okay. You unfortunately fail, but thankfully you did not fail by more than 5. So as the bird swoops across to the front of the ship, its wing just barely grazes Kaylee. Kaylee takes 36 points of damage and is slammed across the ship, barely catching herself on the side of the ship before managing to just barely avoid getting flung over the edge of the ship. That will bring us to Philbin.
Kaylee looks awful, by the way.
Right, because she's a wizard.
Yeah, she's very squishy, and she decided not to cast mage armor.
I mean, it really wouldn't have helped her in that instance, but...
I suppose.
Yeah, so Andrew, Philbin could see the bird kind of swooping around and just rake across the front of the ship. Give me a perception check, please.
I rolled twice, but I'll go with the first one. It's 13 total.
13 total. Yeah, you're kind of scared shitless right now, and you're just yelling out, bird, 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 just before Kaylee just gets slammed into by the bird. What would you like to do?
Yeah, I'll try to scramble to where I'm supposed to go. Philbin takes a mental note to talk to whoever crewed the ship and be like, why did you put the smallest elf to hold onto the mast when we're being attacked, but whatever. And he will try to grab to a rope and maybe try to tie it down if he's strong enough to even pull it into position.
And the mast isn't going anywhere. Like, the mast isn't breaking. It's more to just, your job is to technically maintain the rigging should anything come loose.
Fair enough.
So
yeah, I guess he'll try his best to hold on to it, or I guess, yeah, okay. Make sure it's tied tight.
Okay. Go ahead and give me an athletics check, please.
Oh, God. 18.
That's pretty good. So with an 18, your training kicks in. You hear the voice of Sylvie in your head as, like, she has berated you so many times for not tying your knots effectively. And you very quickly tie an appropriate slip knot in the right spot to give just enough slack to the rope that is keeping the sail in its proper tightness, and hope that it holds. In your success, you're actually going to give Taven an advantage on helming the ship right now. Speaking of Taven, unfortunately, our good friend Ian, who's been dealing with some health issues recently, had to step out. And so hearts to him. We hope he gets through. We're glad he was able to hang with us as long as he did. Taven will now just be responsible for doing the best he can to maintain the direction of the ship. So, at the end of your turn, Philbin, what was that for? Quit clicking stuff.
My D-Dice is freaking out, man.
At the end of your turn, Philbin, there is a moment where you're watching, you finish tying your knot, you glance up and you look into the skies. You're looking all around for the bird. And you glance up as you're looking around, and you see what appears to be a figure, a face, something in the clouds above you that is alight with a wicked, violent smile. And I need for you to make a willpower saving throw, please.
What do you mean by willpower?
The wisdom
Okay.
saving throw. I did that a couple of weeks ago too. God damn.
22.
Nice. You do maintain control of yourself and do not succumb to fear.
I don't know about that, but
Okay, it doesn't instill the frightened condition within you.
yeah, fair enough.
We'll say. Great, and it is now Sylvie's turn.
Okay. Has anybody given me direction yet?
No, the first officer, you haven't spotted him just yet.
Okay. Well, in that case, I'm going to head over to the cannon.
Yeah, so you emerge from the deck just in time. Kaylee had kind of outpaced you a little bit. And so you step
legs.
up. Yeah, you step up onto the deck just in time to see Kaylee flying towards you. You duck out of the way as she slams into the railing next to the steps that lead up into the helm. As you step up onto the main deck and you catch sight of this bird just kind of arcing as it flies away from the ship.
Fantastic. Okay, so as Kaylee skids past me, I'll just say, "You're doing so great. Keep going, keep fighting." And I will cast Bardic Inspiration, or I'll give her Bardic Inspiration.
Thank you.
Yep. And then I will. Can I get over to the cannon?
Yeah, absolutely. Sure.
Okay. Yeah, I'll go to the cannon. I'll get it all hyped up and ready to go.
Go ahead and give me an Arcana check.
Come on. $25?
Damn, guys. Yeah. As soon as you start to approach the cannon, you haven't even gotten to it yet, and it starts powering up. It starts turning itself on. You know it's not supposed to do that. In the moment, you don't care that it's not supposed to do that, but it just did that. And normally, it takes a good little bit for it to charge. Mm-hmm. But as you look at the gauge that lets you know when it's ready to fire, you see it almost redlining.
Okay. Do I have enough action in this turn to aim it at the bird?
Sure.
Shoot?
Sure. Yeah. Since this is an arcane cannon, you have multiple options that you could use to fire it. You could use dexterity with proficiency. You could use arcana as a skill to aim it, or you could use a spellcaster ability check. All of those things will work if you wish to fire this cannon.
Okay. I will. A lot of these are the same. I'll roll Arcana for this.
Great.
22?
Yeah. With ease, you swing the cannon over. It's on a very mobile swivel. And for most people, the positioning of it, they have to like walk with it. But you kind of just ride the platform and spin with it instead because of how tiny you are. And so you just kind of spin around, and in one quick fluid motion as you spin, you pull on the activation lever and you see this pulse of arcane energy kind of coalesce at the back, kind of in front of you. You immediately feel like this force of energy kind of surging into your face. And then that coil of power just ripples through the cannon itself and causes the crystal at the front of the arcane cannon to just glow with this oddly purple energy. Normally, it's kind of like a blue-white, and in this instance, it's purple and rippling with lightning in the same way that the bird is. And it that is such a loud cacophony of noise in front of you, Kaylee, Sylvie, you feel almost deaf for a moment. There's a ringing in your ears. You can't hear anything. The flash is so blindingly bright, you can't see anything for a moment. And as you blink, the bolt seems to curve through the air, following the bird like you had missed, but it's manifesting itself to strike, and it slams into the side of this creature. And I need for you to roll 20d6.
Sure. If my computer crashes, it's been swell.
Normally, the damage on this is only 10.
But I'm special.
Well, sure. We'll go with that. That's a lot of dice.
Amazing.
I'm seeing a total of 77.
77. That is correct.
Nice. Yeah, this violent explosion of power just erupts upon this creature. And as it does so, you see the creature falter in the air. But then immediately its wings flip out and it stops and hovers in the space, no longer requiring momentum to stay aloft. It just floats in the space in front of you. And its eyes gleam with an almost otherworldly hatred upon you. And it roils its head back and surges forward as a bolt of arcane and lightning energies erupt out of its beak and envelop the entirety of the ship. I need for all of you, please, to roll Constitution saving throws. That's a 2 for one of you. I see a nat 1.
You sure do, for a total of 7.
Hey.
I've got a 2, total of 8.
Who all used their advantages from earlier?
Already used that.
I still have mine.
I do as well.
Lady.
Do it.
Deb, you also technically have Bardic Inspiration too.
Oh, that's right. Okay, that was worse. Where's my D?
Philbin picked it up.
Oh, I got 24.
Heyo.
God damn.
Your Bardic Inspiration. Oh, yeah. Your Bardic Inspiration is only a D8, isn't it?
Yep.
It's a D10.
Oh, it is?
I think. Yeah, let me double check. Yeah, D10.
Oh, thank God.
Hey.
There, it went from a 1 to a 10. That's a nice to see.
So I ended up with 21.
Nice. So 21 is significantly better than what you had before.
Yep.
You do succeed. Andrew, you also succeeded. Beth, unfortunately, your natural 1 does fail. I hate to tell you that. I'm sure it's a shock to everyone.
Flabbergasted.
Yes. That would fail. So as this violent outburst of energy ripples across the ship, all of you find yourselves surrounded by the power of it. You know those little plasma balls where you put your finger on the tip and the energy kind of, follows your fingertips sort of thing? Imagine if you were inside of one of those, because that's what it's like for you in this moment. As you brace yourselves, you flinch, you grab on to whatever you can, you feel the power of this roiling around you, and you wait for the violent energy to just tear you to shreds. And as that wait turns into another moment and another moment, you find yourselves looking around, still sitting inside of this plasma ball of arcane energy. And it's not touching you. It's touching everywhere else on the ship. Kaylee, or I did it again, Sylvie, you do get blown back off of the cannon, though, all the way across the ship, slamming into the mast, and you take 42 points of damage as the violent power of the arcane cannon explodes upon you.
Okay.
And slams you back into the mast.
You're doing great, sweetie.
Thanks.
All of you are standing up there. The rest of the crew, emerging from the lower decks of the ship. The captain, like, holding on to the mast, yelling out orders. Taven just holding the steering helm as tightly as he possibly can. All of you find yourselves lurching back and forth, the ship just wrenching from one side to the other, stopping for a moment, free falling for a few moments after that. And then in this chaos, with no one knowing what to do or anything that they can do, you can't see very far, you can't hear, you can barely hear your own voice as you scream out anything that you're trying to say. All of a sudden, the ship surges forward, easily twice the speed of full that you had done at the beginning of your voyage. The ship begins to rise up into the air. The clouds around you swirl past, barely able to hold on to anything. Several of you injured. At one point, Sylvie, you kind of start to fly off from the mast. The captain reaches out and grabs onto your arm and pulls you in. Kaylee, you kind of are like pretzeling yourself into the stairs to, use the leverage of the stairs to keep you aright. Philbin, if it wasn't for the fact that you have a rope tied around your waist, you'd probably be long gone at this point. It was a smart move. And as the ship bursts forward out and through this violent arcane storm that manifested seemingly out of nowhere, you all of a sudden can see your breath in the air. You are well above the clouds. Taven at the helm yells out, "We're too high! We're too high!" as he sees the altitude gauge in the red. The power of the ship, you can feel the arcanic engine beneath your feet. And then you feel something more. You feel those of you with arcane abilities. So, Kaylee, Sylvie, not so much Philbin. You feel your spell, your magic, the power of your spellcasting being wrenched from you. Philbin, that magical rapier that you had kept at your side that had been a gift from some uncle or something a couple hundred years ago that you've never really thought much of, but you know it's magic, so you hold on to it, all of a sudden turns to ash at your hip. The power of it completely drained. Any magical adornments that any of you possessed quickly become relics of simple materials before slowly disintegrating upon you. And for Kaylee, you know that this is what you had witnessed in the engine room before. Except now, the arcanic engine seems to be in self-preservation mode. Seems to be sucking all of the power that it possibly can because of what just transpired. And as all of this is happening, you hear from the front of the ship as the first officer had surged forward to try to get a sense of what was happening, to see where you all were going. You hear him yell out, "Land! We're going to land! I can see it!" And as he says that, the ship seems to reach an apex of sorts of its flight, and then starts heading down on the other side, as if a pendulum in reverse. In this case, though, it's faster, much faster than the ship had wanted, you think. Gravity is helping now. You start speeding beyond the point that any of you could have possibly fathomed going this fast. You're holding on tightly to everything. And in the skies around you, you see a shower of sparks, of stars. Meteors alight the sky as you are traversing through it at this exponential speed. You see first a handful, and then more, to the point that so much of the sky is blocked out you can't even see the moons anymore, as you become part of this meteor shower. Is there anything that any of you would like to do in this moment?
I think that Sylvie, holding on for dear life and trying not to, fall from the thing that's falling, is sort of staring in wonder at what's happening around her. This is exactly what she's out here to do, to explore the connection between exploration and the arcane. And this is the wildest experience of that she's ever had. And it's kind of wonderful and terrifying. But she'll just sort of hold on and brace.
Andrew?
Philbin, tied to the mast, will stretch out his hands and look at his fingers and notice that one of his nails is broken, and he picks at it, and underneath the nail he finds a small piece of fecal matter, and he flicks it away.
Okay.
Clean that toilet hard, man.
All right.
Thank you.
At least you finally did your job. Deb.
Kaylee looks over at Sylvie and remembers how the first day Sylvie was so excited and was like, this is the adventure. And she puts her hand down onto, the tread of the stair, trying to connect with the ship, and sort of silently begs it for just one little gasp of magic. And she feels a little bit surge into her, and she sends up a skywriting spell.
Okay.
Asking for help.
As Kaylee manifests this symbol, this SOS type of symbol into the sky, she's not sure that it's visible against the meteor shower that's happening in the skies above. But more than that, there's a moment where she feels an extreme sense of sorrow, an almost apologetic sympathy kind of all around her. And as you all come crashing down into this new land, this mountainous array that the ship is crashing into, embracing your final moments in what ways that you can. That's where we're going to conclude tonight, ladies and gentlemen.